Good evening. Welcome into the Philadelphia Soul official pregame show. It's live here on Bob Long Sports. My name is Bob Long, and alongside me, as always, Rob Stott. Rob, welcome back. I know you've had some parental duties that have kept you away from some of the games here, but it's great to have you back at the Wells Fargo Center. And the Soul, in your absence, haven't even lost a game.
Didn't miss much, I guess.
No,
Thank you for the intro. And yeah, family comes first. So happy to be back though in the Wells Fargo Center, up high above the Soul, where it feels like home, second home. So
without a doubt, and it's been home for the Philadelphia Soul. Well, I guess the road has been the home as well for the Philadelphia Soul, Rob, as they've won all 8 games that they've played this year. It's a 14-game regular season gauntlet over the course of the year. The Tampa Bay Storm, on the other side, they come in with just 1 loss, and it was earlier this year in their second game of the season at home against the Soul, Rob.
Yeah, home opener for Tampa Bay. Dropped it to the Soul, as all teams in the AFL have this year. But, an 8-0 record for the Soul so far, but not the easiest of 8-0s. I know we'll get into that a little bit, but it's been a lot closer than expected in some of these games. So we'll see. I mean, it's another tough test tonight. In this small league that is the AFL this year, it's kind of, you think it would sort of drown the competition level, but in fact, and this is something else we'll get into, I think it's only working to, raise the competition level of the AFL this year. So it's been an interesting 8 games, and we'll see what number 9 has in store.
Based on the irregularities in the schedule, Rob, this will be only the second time that these two teams meet on the season. Now, Cleveland, the longtime rival of the Soul, they have played this Philadelphia team 3 times already, and then next week the Soul will head out to Quicken Loans Arena to take on the Cleveland Gladiators in what will be the 4th and final matchup of the regular season. But I think the irregularity in the schedule has made this a more coveted and a more anticipated game, as now you have these two teams that have essentially mowed through the rest of the Arena Football League. The only loss, again, for the Tampa Bay Storm to the Philadelphia Soul. Now, Randy Hipbeard and Joe Hills are a big part of that. The offense of this Tampa Bay team has been as good as anybody in the league.
Yeah, incredible. And Hills, I don't have the stat in front of me, but he's on some incredible streak right now for touchdowns in a row.
76
recording
touchdowns. 76 touchdowns in a row. Games that he scored a touchdown in 76 consecutive. Now, oh, by the way, only 2 touchdowns, or 2 games, shall we say, behind the record holder in the Arena Football League. That's Damian Harrell. He caught a touchdown in 78 consecutive games.
Incredible. So, I mean, it'll be a tough test for the Soul defense, but if there's any defense right now in this AFL that could stand up to them, maybe put that streak to an end, that could be a little extra motivation for them out there tonight. It's this top-ranked Soul defense. So, they're leading the league in interceptions. Scoring defense, they're leading the league as well. So it's going to be a great battle to watch all night.
Who will be the one to guard the big Joe Hills? Will it be the more diminutive Dwayne Hollis, who has been so good, or will it be the slightly bigger James Romaine, who's had a great season of his own, Rob, and a big part of the reason that this Soul secondary, the defensive secondary, has been so good. In fact, I made the comment in our first show that losing Tracy Belton could be a big difference maker, as he was the defensive MVP in Arena Football last year. Now, he's gone and had a great season with Washington, but the Soul defense has not only been good in Belton's absence, but as we'll get into, it's actually been their best attribute. Their offense hasn't followed suit in the same way that the defense has stood up this year.
Yeah, so starting with on the defensive side, you talk about the absence of Belton. This Soul defense, I mean, that's the reason that we're sitting here at 8-0 right now. It's kind of incredible to watch. They were a big part of the reason why, the Soul had that championship run last year. We saw Radaball, coming off of the AFL Offensive Player or MVP awards honors the year before that, stumbled a little bit throughout the year. So it was kind of awesome to watch the defense step up and really carry this team across the finish line. And that's just carrying over into this year. So it's awesome to see those guys, like we said, number 1 ranked defense, leading the league in interceptions. Also sacks. They're recording sacks at a high rate, leading the league in sacks. But then you look on the other side of the ball. Yeah, the offensive stuttered. Radaball's still there. You got your quarterback in place. He's leading this team. but they've not had to work as hard. They're almost at the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of statistics as compared to the Soul defense. They're number 5 in things like total scoring offense and offensive yards per game, things like that. But maybe that's because they haven't had to be as good because of the defense. So, I mean, there's a lot of quirks and things to figure out, but whatever it is, it's all led to 8-0.
It has led to 8-0, and it hasn't been always as emphatic as it could have been. And you mentioned the offensive struggles. I mean, I don't think that's just because they haven't had to be. They've started slow at times. They've let teams back in games. And, in fact, if you take a look at some of the close games they've had, Week 2, that was a 4-point game, a win against Tampa Bay. Now, if they're the second-best team in the league, perhaps you can understand that. But in a league where you have 2 new entrants and 3 legacy teams, when you've played a team like Baltimore close, 61-56 at home, you need a fumble recovery in the last minute to win the game. Just 2 weeks, Rob, after they beat them by 35 points. And then you double that back a couple weeks later, a 1-point win on the road at Washington in a game that the Valor really should have won. Cleveland, they had close games against them, 69-67, 6 out the most. That was their first game at the Q, a place they're going next year, or I should say next week to play. And so, the question really becomes, Rob, at what point is this, wow, the Soul is not just starting out slow. Right. It's the fact that maybe this is what their offense will be this year, and maybe this is more of a parity-driven league than we saw even last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So you think about, obviously the slow starts are there, and I remember sitting in this same booth last year, it kind of felt the same way. The Soul would always get off to a slow start, but things would eventually pick up, and they would take off, and the offense would put up 70 points a game. It's kind of not been that this year, but, it goes back to what you said about the parity in this league. And, when you have 5 teams in the league and everyone's playing each other 3-4 times a year, you're it kind of makes every team a natural rival. So everyone has the playbook on one another. They kind of, you see them once and all the surprises are gone. You kind of know what you're going to get. So, I mean, teams know how to defend Darius Reynolds out here nowadays. So it's kind of like, you're not really surprising anyone. So it's just, I think that's breeding greater competition, even though we have 2 new teams. A lot of the names are familiar names. It's a lot of the guys that were at the top of the league are just, instead of being spread out amongst 8 teams, now you have them all jam-packed onto 5, and, that's kind of what we're seeing here.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you look at a guy like Michael Benson was a big offseason transaction. He went from Arizona, who's no longer in the league, here to the Soul. On the other side, we mentioned Tracy Belton goes to Washington and all of a sudden makes that a legitimate defensive team. So I think that's a good point you make. Now, what we'll talk about next is the fact that what we see here tonight is likely to be the best that this league has to offer. We talk about parity all we want. This is 8-0. It's 8-0 against 7-1, and the Tampa Bay Storm have won 6 straight behind Randy Hipbeard, who's been maybe the best quarterback in the league thus far, and Joe Hills, who is as dynamic as they come. The Soul, Rob, haven't lost a game in 12 appearances. So they come into this game riding a 12-game winning streak dating back to last year.
Dating back to last year, but also dating back 365 days exactly to tonight. So 1 year since the Soul have lost, and so they'll try to keep that streak going. Hope that they can, against this Tampa Bay team. It's going to be tough. But, history's kind of working in their favor here. If we talk about, the Soul have won 12 straight, yes. The last time, can you tell me the last time they lost against Tampa Bay?
I personally cannot.
No, 2014 is actually the last time Tampa Bay has beaten Philadelphia in any capacity, which is kind of interesting to think about. The Soul kind of owned Tampa Bay historically. So, last time Tampa Bay won in Philadelphia. Can you tell me that, Bob?
I can't tell you that. I didn't do my research tonight, folks.
Come on,
I'm
Bob.
sorry.
No. 2011, the first time these teams actually played in Philadelphia, is the last time Tampa Bay has won in the city of brotherly love. So not very friendly, not very brotherly to the Storm. So it'll be interesting to see, does that impact the Storm at all? I know these are completely different teams right now than, the team that was around in 2011, for example. But, that kind of thing, you think about it in other sports. The mindset going into a stadium against a natural rival that you've struggled against. Cleveland going to Pittsburgh in the NFL. That's always a struggle for Cleveland. So does that happen in the AFL? Well, I mean, the streak kind of tells us yes, so we'll see if that's actually the case here for the Storm tonight.
The Storm come in, they have their best opportunity now as they've ever had. The dynamic wide receiver in Joe Hills, we keep talking about him. And, of course, Randy Hippier, the quarterback. This is their longest win streak since they last went to the Arena Bowl 5 years ago. And so what's very, very important for this Storm team is to keep this going. And, it's a different league than it was in the 2011 season. And so a great opportunity here. And a guy that on defense is going to be very, very important is the Jack linebacker, Alvin Ray Jackson, a phenomenal player who can dip into coverage depending upon schemes and depending upon formations, but also can really be very disruptive in the middle. And so looking forward to seeing what Ray Jackson does in the defensive end.
Yeah, and he's going to have a tough time, or it'll be, I guess, maybe not a tough time, but it'll be an interesting battle to watch. Jackson against that Seoul offensive line, which is among the tops in this AFL because they've only given up in the 8 games so far 3 sacks against Radaball. So they're a solid unit. They're able to keep their quarterback up. It'll be interesting to see. Does Jackson come up and try to disrupt the line, or does Tampa Bay have him drop more into a coverage play and protect their secondary against the Darius Reynolds or the underneath options that the Soul have? So that'll be an interesting sort of thing to keep tabs on throughout this game.
Well, and it's the balance of the Philadelphia Soul wide receiver core, Rob, that makes this team so special. Even though the offense has struggled at times, Darius Money Reynolds, a 20-touchdown season thus far. Ryan McDaniel, he has 14. And then the third option, Rob, is the Arena Bowl MVP from last year, SK Sean Kalinamoku, with 12 touchdowns of his own. And he's caught for almost 500 yards, and he's caught the ball 40 times. So when that is your third option, and then, oh, by the way, if I can give a shout-out to the fourth option today, Poppy Livers suiting up, number 17, pride of Villanova University, a 4-year player over there. This is a really speedy and really good route-running lineup that I think the wide receiver core is as good as anybody.
Yeah, Radaball has no shortage of options to throw to. So, I mean, you talk about those names. Those are names that led this team last year. And it again goes back to that whole point about consistency. They have the pieces. They've had the pieces in place. They have that chemistry they've built up over the years. So it's been fun to watch. Led them to an Arena Bowl last year. And they bring all those pieces back. So they'll get – something tells me, I know we're 8 games into the season, but they'll get clicking. They'll start, getting back into form as the playoffs start creeping up, and they can sniff that repeat. They'll get it together. These guys know what they're doing. They have the chemistry to sort of work the kinks out. But even with those kinks, they're still putting together quite a campaign in 2017 and putting up some pretty awesome stats, and it's led to that 8-0 record.
This is as good as it gets here in Arena League football. The Soul at 8-0 against the Storm at 7-1. And now, Rob, I want to talk a little bit about Ron James. Ron James, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Storm. This is his 20th year coaching in some capacity at the arena football level. And he's been coaching at the college level, at various other levels of football. But really, pride and joy is here in the Arena Football League. And we were talking about what has made this Tampa Bay team different. Last year, a team that really struggled. Well, this is Ron James' first year at the helm of the Storm in a league that, had some change-up, some shake-up in the offseason, but they've come in and been as good as gold for the first 8 games of the season. I think Ron James and his track record has a lot to do with that. Of course, on the other side, Clint Dolezal, who has that same type of resume, but most of the time has been spent with one team, and that's the Philadelphia Soul.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what having a solid head coach that kind of knows what he's doing can translate to on the field. Talk about the chemistry with the offense. I mean, the chemistry between Dolezal and Dan Radaball, quarterback mind working directly with his quarterback. It can really create a special product on the field. And I think that, Tampa Bay is working that. This is year 1. So I know AFL's kind of been in flux, sort of a transition period, but if they can sort of maintain everything that they've got going on down there, it's obviously working in year 1. I mean, who knows? You build up over year over year. And, I mean, we've seen it with the Soul. It could be something special. So Tampa Bay, they're in the right direction. They're moving in the right direction. So, and it's nice to have that leadership at the top that, what else can you say about it? It's good to have leadership at the top that is solid leadership.
It is, and this is once again is the Philadelphia Soul official pregame show. It's live here on Bob Long Sports with Bob Long and Rob Stott. To follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Bob Long Sports and visit our Facebook page as well. And you can be updated on all of our upcoming programming, whether that's LaSalle College High School football or basketball. That could certainly be the Phillies' finest 7-on-7 AAU football that we've had the opportunity to call. That can be Swarthmore College athletics or really anything else going on in the Philadelphia area. That's where you can get in touch with us. And if you'd like us to broadcast or telecast an event for you, again, you can find us at Bob Long Sports or directly at bob@boblongsports.com via email. Now, Rob, we're going to take a break in just a second, and then we're going to talk about a certain would-be or could-be trade going down at the NBA ranks that could affect the team right over there. The red banners behind Rob Stott's head.
Do you trust the process?
I guess we'll find out. So we'll be right back. The Philadelphia Soul against the Storm will be next, and we'll have our concluding comments on that, but also some basketball talk here on BLS and the Philadelphia Soul official pregame show.
The attorneys at Howland Hess O'Connell have experience encompassing a wide variety of commercial, property, construction, criminal, and estate litigation. Call today at 215-287-9292 or CUP-WAWA. Our attorneys are adept to changes in the law, which is a great benefit to our achievements and your success. Our goal is to handle your situation in a professional manner to get you the justice that you deserve. Our focus is you. Visit us online at howlandhess.com or call 215-287-9292.
Elmark Signs and Graphics, your choice for custom signs and design, has been servicing the Philadelphia area for over 30 years. From illuminated signs to vehicle wraps, Elmark Signs is your choice for all your custom signs needs. Elmark delivers high-quality signs with a courteous, helpful, and experienced staff. Visit them at elmarksigns.com or give them a call at 610-692-0525. Again, that's elmarksigns.com, 610-692-0525. Go check out their website for some great examples of signs that Elmark has created, and be sure to tell them that Bob Long Sports sent you. elmarksigns.com, your choice for custom signs and design.
Hi, this is Rob Stott with Bob Long Sports. BLS is the official host of the pregame show for the Philadelphia Soul. Be sure to tune in before every home game for featured interviews with head coach Clint Dolzell and quarterback Dan Radeball, as well as player profiles. We even get the opportunity to speak with AFL Commissioner Scott Butera.
Commissioner of the Arena Football League, Scott Butera on the line.
You do a tremendous job. Of all the, local broadcast teams, by far Philadelphia is the gold standard in our league. I wish they all could be like that because you really understand our game, you promote it well.
So be sure to tune in 30 minutes before every home game and check at Bob Long Sports on Twitter for programming updates.
This is Bob Long here, and you certainly know me from BLS, doing LaSalle College High School broadcasts, our weekly radio shows, and everything in between. However, during the 9 to 5, I am a commercial banker in the greater Philadelphia area. If your business is looking for financing or any other type of assistance, you can reach me at 215-328-2578. That's 215-328-2578. I've had experience in the energy industry, healthcare, public finance, as well as in manufacturing and leasing. Bob Long, a commercial banker in the greater Philadelphia market, helping your businesses grow. Bob Long from Bob Long Sports here, and I want to tell you about the good folks over at City Year Philadelphia. Every day, the dedicated young adults at City Year make an impact in high-need schools in Philadelphia and in 26 other cities across the country by serving students who need extra help to stay on track to graduate. If you are ages 17 to 24 and are interested in serving as a tutor, role model, or mentor, check out the inspiring stories at #MakeBetterHappen.
City Year is currently accepting applicants for the next school year.
Well, you can't miss Vinny the Crumb in the background.
No, you can't.
He will get in your grill whether you want to or not. A guy that's been doing this for a long time. You certainly hear the PA announcer behind us here, and we're having a tough time hearing each other. But hopefully you're okay hearing us. Bob Long, Rob Stott here for the Philadelphia Soul official video pregame show. Now, we promised that we would talk a little bit about what's going on with the team that plays in the very same venue, the Philadelphia 76ers, a team that has lived by the mantra of trust the process through one coach, two GMs, and literally thousands of fans coming through the turnstile.
Thousands.
But now, over the course of the year, it'll approach the millions, and of course I say that in jest, but this program, this organization, on the way back with picks like Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and then they were supposed to have the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft, whether that would be Alonzo Ball if he were to fall, a Josh Jackson, a De'Aaron Fox, or a Malik Monk. But as we heard last night, Rob,
hold the presses. Hold the press.
There is a strong possibility that the Boston Celtics would agree to send the 1st overall pick to the Philadelphia 76ers, presumably to get 6'4" swingman and ball handler Markelle Fultz out of University of Washington with the 1st overall pick, and the Celtics would receive the swapped pick, the 3rd overall pick, plus either the Kings or the Lakers' first round pick in 2018. Now, Rob, that pick would likely vest into a very, very strong 2, 3, 4, 5 lottery type selection. So the Celtics would essentially get 2 lottery picks for 1. Is Fultz that much better than what the other teams or what the Celtics would expect to get with those 2 picks? Would the Sixers be better off holding on to those 2 picks, or would the Markelle Fultz move be the one that would be the best way to go for the Sixers?
So if you're asking me, the fan that's been trying to trust this process for 3-4 years now, it feels like, I want the player now. I don't want to, put my stock in a future draft pick. I love the Fultz move. And
love it.
It almost sounds like a done deal. So this is something that can get 76ers fans beyond pumped for this season.
In fact, my understanding is that you said that the Celtics canceled their meeting with Markelle Fultz.
They sure did. They were supposed to bring him in for a workout this weekend, and that was canceled. As these talks progress, from what we understand, they are in incredibly advanced discussions to collect this 1st overall pick from the Celtics. So it seems like it's happening. So it might not be until draft day that we see it actually go down, but it seems like it's almost as close as you can get to a sure thing without being a sure thing. So.
It's funny, we were talking just weeks ago about whether Lonzo Ball would be the one to fall past the Lakers, and if they were to pick Jackson instead. We've also heard reports that Boston may have liked Josh Jackson enough to pick him with the 1st overall pick, and that's why they would feel comfortable dropping down to 3, getting their guy, and picking up another pick in the process. Does that tell you anything about Fultz and what people would expect out of him, that the Boston Celtics would be willing to make a deal like this? I mean, if we're talking about last year, I don't know that anybody would have been, amenable to a trade out of the 1st overall pick when it was Ben Simmons on the line. So what does that say about what Fultz has to offer?
It doesn't say as much as about Fultz to me as it does as the Celtics situation. Here's a team that is chock full in their backcourt with ball handlers. It tells me that they don't necessarily need a number 1 overall pick as a sure ball handler. So they're falling back to pick potentially a Jackson, a guy that. Maybe it's more of a mental thing. They don't want to pick Jackson at number 1 and put the weight of being number 1 on a guy like him. So whereas they know that the Sixers are willing to give up a little bit more to get Fultz, and they could still get their guy at 3, it's a win-win if you ask me for both of these teams.
And there's also a thought that this pick stockpiling would set up Boston better for a blockbuster-type move to get a Paul George or a Jimmy Butler. And so whether that could be the coalescing force for these two organizations, Sixers want the move because they want to have that third piece of the cog, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and then Markelle Fultz.
That just gives me chills.
With Dario
Those
Saric
three
as
names.
your fourth guy, right? And then Boston understands that this gives them the best opportunity to package something together. Could that be the factor that's making it most amenable to both teams? And if so, I find that to be very exciting for both the Sixers with a longer time horizon and the Celtics, who are looking to dethrone the Cleveland Cavaliers right now.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what way you chop this up, I mean, it looks like it's coming out to be a really big move and a positive move for both teams, and something that's going to help them both. So that's what's nice to see about this is that, yes, the Sixers are picking up a pick, giving up a pick, but it's a pick that they weren't going to have originally. You know, it's one of these extra picks that they've picked up thanks to Sam Hinkie stockpiling all these picks. So it's all that stockpiling is now paying off for the Sixers, and in turn it can pay off for the Celtics. And, you know, the Sixers get their guy. The Celtics potentially could swing something to get, you know, who they want. And it just all works out. It's harmony. It's perfect harmony in the NBA. And, you know, it can help both of these teams rise and sort of increase the level of competition out east, which, frankly, hasn't been that great.
And you know, anytime there's a deal with two teams that are in the same division, two arch rivals, with the Lakers being the Celtics' primary rival, I would say on the East Coast it's the Sixers historically that have been the Celtics' primary rival, and I would say without question for Philadelphia 76ers fans, the team that they loathe the most is the Boston Celtics. So to have this deal of this magnitude go down between these two teams, we're going to be talking about the results of this trade no matter how it pans out for many, many years, and it's going to be a lot of fun in the NBA. As everybody tries to build this super team to compete against the Warriors, the Celtics want to do it now. The Sixers want to build it for later, and they think the threesome of Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Markelle Fultz, what Rob is wincing, shivers up its spine every time I say it. They think that's the way that it will be done.
Sounds so good, and I can't wait. So it's going to be something special.
It will be special. It'll happen right behind us, and perhaps more of those things hanging behind Rob's head in the somewhat near future. But a lot to be played, and you know, two of these guys, whoever's getting drafted, and then Ben Simmons, have not even seen the floor, and Embiid for only 31 games. So we can also put the pin back in the grenade for just a few minutes before we start crowning champions. But no doubt they're on the right direction. So we'll take our final thoughts here, Rob, before kickoff, which is just minutes away here from the Wells Fargo Center, as we conclude our Philadelphia Soul official pregame show, but not before I get your key matchup and key thought of the game.
So key matchup, I think it comes down to Tampa Bay's linebacker Jackson going up against the Soul offensive line. You know, if Jackson can cause some, you know, disruption up front, I know we said he's a really good two-way player in that, you know, he can go through the line or drop back into a little bit of coverage. If he can disrupt the line and sort of, you know, if Philadelphia gets off to a slow start and Jackson can get through and make Radaball uncomfortable, potentially could have the biggest impact on this game. So I know there's a lot happening outside on both sides with the wide receivers on both teams, but I think it's that inside battle, very cliche football, you know, the battle in the trenches. I think that's what it comes down to in this one.
It's funny you say line, because I'm going to go on the opposite line. You mentioned earlier in the show, Rob, that the Soul lead the league in sacks this year. And what we didn't mention at the time is that that's all the more impressive because they're missing Jake Metz, who's gone on to take his talents to higher levels, and then Teddy Jennings. So two of the three on the defensive line from last year that led the league in sacks as well, no longer here. Justin Lawrence, the nose guard, and Sean Daniels on the end, I think, are going to be two keys here tonight because Randy Hipyard has been the best quarterback quite possibly in arena football this year. He's got a lot of weapons on the outside. So the ability to get into the backfield and force some quick throws from Hipyard will allow this ball-hawking, interception-happy defensive backfield for the Soul to be able to take advantage. And I think that's the key to tonight's game. So, Rob, it's fun, great to have you back. Thanks for
Thank
taking a break from parenting, although there are no breaks, Rob.
Never
I know
any
that.
breaks.
Never any breaks, just a loving wife at home who lets you come and do this for a couple hours. So we appreciate Marie as well. So for Rob Stott, I'm Bob Long, still childless, so I can do this a little more often. And we're saying so long from the Wells Fargo Center. Up next, Tampa Bay Storm at 7-1 against Philadelphia Soul at 8-0. The game of the year so far in arena football. We'll be back for the next home game. It's a few weeks away as the Soul start a road trip and have a bye in the midst as well. But we'll see you next time they show up in this building. You can catch all our programming on @BobLongSports on Twitter. And once again, we're signing off here from the pregame show from the Wells Fargo Center.